want answers.
I want the truth.
Hello and welcome to the Realize podcast. I am your host, Georgina Grace, and I am joined today by the absolutely beautiful Anita Toi. Anita, you are a ruling 33-6. You knew this, didn't you, about yourself?
I did know this, but I don't know as much as you know, so I'm really excited to hear more.
Oh my goodness. This is such a freaking powerful number. And I mean, for me, it explains so much, makes so much sense. But so let me just first talk about the 3 energy, because you have a double 3 energy there, right? That's a master number. And I'll tell you about the 3 energy and you'll get an idea of what a 33 then means, right? So these are the intuitives of the numbers. They are, and for me, if you think about what intuition is like truth from source. That's how it makes sense for me. And so because of this, I like to relate to the 3 energies like they're a channel. They are channeling truth from source, whatever your source may be. And because of this, 3s are like truth seekers. I call them the truth seekers. They're interested in truth. They're a radar for absolute truth. And they're also interested in expressing truth. And because they're interested in expressing truth, they are usually very, very creative people. They're usually singers, songwriters, artists, writers, you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you can go and watch someone play piano and you're moved to tears, because they are not just playing music, they're communicating a truth to you. So that word communication is also a 3 energy. 3s are communicators.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Their voice is their power. So you have this channel that's flowing to you that is just pure truth from source. When you have that doubled, the 33, not only now do you have this channel coming to you, but you also have a channel back. So if I were to do like a top 5 list of the most powerful manifestors of all the numbers, the 33-6 would be at the top.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look into places, 33 is used quite a lot.
Yeah, well, it's got a bit of stigma to it right now.
It definitely has a bit of stigma to it, but obviously you can use the numbers to your own advantage. And there are some people that definitely use this energy to their advantage. You are like the total opposite in that you're a high level light soul and you're using this to your advantage to fulfill on your life path, which is, this earth energy 6, right? The 6 energy, if you could envision what Mother Earth, Mother Nature would be embodied, it would be a 6 energy. She is like, everybody is my child.
Yeah.
Everyone is my child. All the animals are my children. All of nature is my children. This is the 6 energy. These people are nurturers, like divine nurturers. They usually feel this very deep level responsibility for all of humanity, for all of the earth. And when Mother Earth gets hit, 6 energies feel it as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. So this is who we have with us on the podcast today. Feeling a little bit intimidated.
Oh my goodness, you have no reason to whatsoever.
Like in the sense of I'm in the presence of someone, really great, so it's such an honor to be here with you.
Thank you.
For joining us.
That was a really cool intro. I loved it. I love it because it's not about bios or credentials or any of that stuff. You're just coming in at this whole other level, which is totally my jam, the esoteric and this ancient knowledge. So that is just beautiful to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. And you're
Mm.
welcome. I mean, exactly like what you said, it's not about titles or bios or labels or all this kind of stuff. It's like this is a human being, you know. This is
Yeah.
a human being that we're interacting with, and this human being has lived a life. And let's talk about that before we talk about all of the things, you know? So,
Yeah, it's really funny too, because when you were describing the three energy with that connection to source and the channeling, I literally sat here just before I clicked the invite, sort of asking for, I guess, the opportunity to, channel light source for us in this conversation today. So that's really, really funny. Um,
I love
yeah.
that so much. See, all throughout my course, when I teach my course, I'm teaching each person. My gosh, my words are not working. How about can I have some of that channeled?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you share? No, when I go through my course and I teach about the numbers and all of this kind of stuff, people then always put their hand up and share, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That happened for me, da 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 da. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm doing this because I like to be proven right. I'm always right.
Excellent.
Oh, so
What a, what a
good.
nice thing to be in life.
Absolutely. It's great for my ego. Oh my
I
goodness.
love it. And, I had no idea what we're going to talk about today because I didn't even ask you. I thought about it a couple of times. I thought, oh, I should really email Georgina and ask what she plans to talk about. But I just had this innate feeling that we'd we'd be fine. We're just going to bounce stuff around. And then before we hit record, I quickly brought up your human design chart for later because we're going to have session swaps and I'm going to learn more about numbers and you're going to learn more about your human design. And I saw that you're a manifesting generator just like me. So I know now we are totally going to be bouncing everything around.
Oh, it's so much fun. My best friend is a manifesting generator, and I don't fully understand what this means, but when we are together, we we have resorted to actually writing lists of topics that we need to discuss because when we get together, it is like we're over here, we're over here, we're over
Yeah.
here, and everything is like just a quarter of the way in, and then oh no, we got to talk about that,
Oh
and
yeah, sometimes you don't even finish a sentence. So apologies, listeners, because we might be halfway through something and then just slip on out of there.
oh,
That's
but
just
how
how it is.
it's
Yeah.
so great though, and like it's just so for me, I can just drop my shoulders and feel like oh, I don't have to get anywhere, understanding that we're kind of the same in that sense. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
it's kind of a
Yeah.
relief. Does that
Yeah.
make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be a methodical conversation.
Oh, so, so great. So, okay, so let's learn a little bit about who Anita Toi is and where you came from and how you got to doing what you do today. Because when I had a read of your I really can't talk this morning, which is quite a prerequisite for hosting a podcast.
Hmm.
Oh, I look at your beautiful cup. Of course, you have beautiful cups.
Oh, my pottery. Yeah.
Did you make that
Well, I
yourself?
no, I didn't. Oh, let me see there. It's
Look
got
at
the ocean on it, and also I just found it in an op shop. But my dad was a potter, so I grew up with handmade pottery everywhere. In fact, that's all we had.
that.
Like if anyone dared tried to bring home something from IKEA or
Oh,
no, it would be in the bin.
oh, but isn't that just so beautiful?
Hmm. It is. I really appreciate it. Probably more so now than when I was a kid. I was like, why do we have to have these weird? plates and like why can't we have like the nice looking plates that my friends have, like the white dinner plates that were just like sparkling like on the ads, mine are all wonky and they've got flecks and things in them. And now I go for that kind of stuff.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally, totally. Oh, that's so nice. That is so nice. Um, oh, perfect example of how we jump around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess like that, well, that's part of my background. That's part
Yeah.
of where I came from was some pretty kind of semi-hippie parents, I guess. I was born in the mid 70s, outside of Melbourne. I lived in the Dandenong Ranges, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, my parents were kind of very different. My dad was a city dude, and mum was from outback New South Wales, and they just decided to kind of move out there, have a few acres, a bit of a hobby farm. We had every animal known to man. We had orchards, organic veggie gardens. So I grew up pretty, yeah, pretty kind of healthy, organic sort of a lifestyle, I guess,
Mm.
which is something that, a lot of people are wanting now and wanting to get back to, which is really nice to see because I got to experience that growing up. Um, Yeah, and I was a very sensitive, empathic kid. So
Mm.
having all the animals was just beautiful for me. I just hung out with them, the baby lambs and the ducklings, and I rode horses as a kid, and I went to pony club, and we had dogs and cats and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dream childhood.
Kind of. There were family dynamics that weren't so dreamy, and
Mm.
yeah, I think about the environment and the setting that I had as being, I feel very privileged to have had that. And in a lot of ways, I think that kind of saved me from perhaps family dynamics and being somewhat neglected as a child,
Mm.
psychologically, emotionally, very unseen, etc. And so having that nature around me helped so much. I feel like I was almost raised by nature, or I raised myself in amongst the trees and the animals and the kind of fairies that I was connecting with and things like that. So it balanced out the what was difficult within my childhood. Yeah.
Mm. That is so beautiful. I think, it would have just like felt so much like home for you. I think nature's so, so important for you, and particularly like your energy type as well. And having a balance, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting that you made that connection with the six energy. I feel, yeah, nature has to be a part of my life. And I mean, now I'm not really into the farming sort of lifestyle anymore as an adult, and I don't really desire to go back to that, but I need to be living in an area near nature. I'm a surfer, so the ocean, being in the ocean, being immersed in nature is really beautiful for me, really important. And when there's no waves, walking through the bush is my favorite thing, or walking the beach, walking some kind of nature trail rather than an urban environment is what grounds me. And I need some of that daily if I can get it.
Totally, 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 totally. And you know, you've also done Rachel Vaughan's course, haven't you? For
I
the
have, and I loved her course.
everything that you're sharing about the ocean and walking in, the bush or the forest is exactly what she talks about, and the power of doing that for our auras and honestly our whole mental state as
I
well. But
think so. Our mental state and our bodies. And yeah, there's something about being in nature that makes you breathe a little deeper and better. I find walking to be one of the most healing modalities that I've ever done. And that's, you know, from someone who's tried everything. I've been to so many healers and practitioners, and, I'm up for trying all of it. But if I were to, advise someone on what to do first, if they were in a really bad state and they were physically okay, but if they were depressed or anxious, walking, just walk in nature, bare feet if you can. And, I think about times in my life when I was going through a really tough moment. It was walking for a period of time. I feel like it almost takes about the first 20 minutes of that time and that movement, repetitive movement with your body to let a lot of the mind stuff go.
Mm.
And then you can enter, and this doesn't have to be fast power walking. I'm talking just walking,
Yeah.
whatever pace suits you. But it's almost like for me, I needed kind of that first 20 minutes to shake off all the mind stuff, the clutter, the like constant thoughts and the inner critic. And then I'd reach a point where I felt some stillness.
Mm.
And then I'd move into a place where it got more creative again. And this is walking before, say, podcasts and being constantly connected to a phone as well,
Mm.
which is interesting because I do love that. I love walking and listening to a podcast now, but I try and make sure I'm doing some walks each week that have no device, that I'm not connected to a device, I don't have anything on my body, so that I can allow this process to happen
Mm.
where I walk through my junk, my mind junk, I get to the stillness, then I get to the creativity. And that's where solutions can come in to whatever you're dealing with.
Mm. That is so powerful. Um, and it's so true. I think there's something about the crossbody, where
Mm,
you're connecting the left hemisphere with the right hemisphere. And, and so, yeah, it's so, so, so powerful. And I definitely resonate with that a lot. And sometimes, sometimes depending on my mood, it's like a very brisk, like,
yeah, sometimes you really
like,
need
oh, I've
to
got to go for a walk.
shake shit out. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then, eventually, like you said, around that 20-minute mark, it's like, oh, okay. And also I think it's really powerful to walk without an agenda, like not like without a destination in mind, just to,
Yeah, or a number of Ks or a number of steps on your little
Mm.
Fitbit or whatever it is. Yeah, drop all that. Just
Yeah.
just walk till you feel like you're done.
Mm. Because
Yeah, I was thinking too, like when you were saying that crossbody, like I just suddenly pictured crawling because crawling's also brilliant for that brain connection, right? But walking's a bit more socially acceptable as an adult. So I do
and
recommend it
and better on the knees or
100%. Yeah, but it's also similar to, have you come across Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way?
no, maybe.
It's a it's a really great book. You'll find it's one of those books that was everyone bought and then they've moved on from. So you'll find it in op shops and garage sales and
That's
the
awesome.
library. But I really recommend it. And she has a practice called the morning pages, which is a non-physical version of this, where you basically are automatic writing all the gunk from your mind, you're putting it onto a page. And it's not till you've kind of got all of that out on paper, and it could be, a number of pages until the good stuff starts coming through. So
Mm.
it's kind of a similar process without moving your body so much.
So, so great. Being a young mom, I really wish that I could like sit down and write. And this thing happens, and whenever I do that, it always comes out in poetry.
Oh, fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great though.
Yeah, but it's like I and I love doing that. And it really, I'm a ruling 303. And so this channel is just like boom, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? But I kind of long for being able to do that. And being a mum, it's not so easy to find the
I
time.
think they go with it because it sounds like that's the way that your soul just wants to express,
Oh man.
in rather than prose, it's poetry. And who knows, you could make a rap song out of it or something. There's so many ways to go. Oh, Georgina's just fallen out of her chair. Mm.
Oh my gosh, a rap song. I don't know if people want to hear the There was one poem that came out of me once when I was having a really bad episode of mastitis.
I have been there. It is hard work.
Oh
It's
my gosh,
horrible. Yeah.
horrific. And I'd had little bouts of it in the past before this, but this was like, oh, like I can't be a human right now. The pain is so full on.
Mm.
And I thought this must be something much worse than just mastitis. I freaked out and I reached out to one of my crunchy midwife friends and she was like, "Oh, it might be a cyst. It might be this. Maybe you should go, get it checked out or something." And I'm like, going to the GP is the last resort. And well, I reached the last resort and I went to the GP and it was just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. This GP had no idea what she was doing and treated me so badly. I
Mm.
went in there, I said, I'm in absolute agony. I can't breathe, I can't touch it, I can't, all of this stuff. And so
Mm.
she wanted to examine me. And so I laid down on the bed, I pulled my top off, and um, she kind of was like, oh, like looking at my breasts, like,
Oh,
oh,
really?
it gave me the like, oh, you have some rashes on there. And I'm like, it's eczema,
It's inflammation.
it's
Like that's what,
inflammation.
wouldn't you expect it to be red? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then she puts her gloves on and she starts like feeling around, but there was no like gentle, it was just like she went straight in,
Ugh.
and I'm screaming. And she's like, oh, I can't even, well, if you're not going to hold it together, how can I examine you? We're not going to get anywhere. I'm like, it hurts. I told you it hurts. Like, what do you expect? And then she's like, oh, we'll just get dressed. I'm not going to examine you anymore because you're screaming like this. And so I got in the chair and I had Ollie with me, and he, of course, wanted to breastfeed. So there I am breastfeeding in agony um, with this GP, and she's watching me breastfeed. And then she says, oh, that's how you breastfeed. Oh, well, no wonder
Wow.
why it's all blocked up. You're not doing it right. Mind you, I'd been breastfeeding for 17 months at this point.
God.
So,
Oh.
yeah. And then um, she wanted to get me on these really strong painkillers so that I could um, be numb enough to massage, really, vigorously massage the blockage out, and then also get an ultrasound to check, you know, what else is going on. And everything about it just felt so. I said to her, I'm not going to take these, I'm not going to take this painkiller. She said, well, you're going to end up having to cut one of your boobs off then.
Wow, she said that.
She
Wow.
said that. She
It
didn't
just
say
blows my
boobs, she said
mind.
breast.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so then I got home and this crunchy midwife friend had sent me a message that I didn't see before saying, "Oh, call this number. It's free breastfeeding, like it's a breastfeeding support line." And
Mhm.
there's midwives on there. They, volunteer and they give advice to women. So I call it up and this midwife was so lovely, so, so, so lovely. She gave me the most updated research and like advice based on the most recent research. And everything this midwife said was the total opposite of what this GP had recommended I do. She said, I don't know why she needed to put her hands on you. That's actually not necessary whatsoever. And also, everything she recommended is actually detrimental and would have had you like in a position where, yeah, you probably would have had to, look at cutting something or a surgery or something because the vigorous massaging is
Mhm.
not the right thing to be doing. Just like have a hot bath, keep Ollie, shouldn't have said his name. Corey, can you please edit that out? Keep your son breastfeeding and, the inflammation will pass. But the most important thing is just to rest and not stress out and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this
Mm.
GP, how many women is she telling to do the wrong thing? And, so I'm just like, I don't trust these people. I don't
It
trust these
sounds
people.
like it was one of your moments, that's led you down this sort of path of natural birthing and mothering. And,
Mm.
these moments are really important for us to experience. I think it's really funny though with my mastitis journey. I happened to get it when I was visiting Byron Bay, and I went to a GP as well, and this was a man, and he didn't, none of that. He didn't touch me, or he had a look, and he was like, "Yeah, it's red, it's inflamed. I can see what's going on." And he said, "Straight down to the shop for you, get some cabbage leaves and put them in your bra." And I was like, "Wild." I
Byron,
mean, to be
Byron.
honest, it didn't completely. I did the cabbage leaves, but I ended up needing something stronger to actually get through the infection. But at least that was the first point of call. And from a GP, I was quite surprised that it was, yeah, it was much better experience. So I'm
Oh
sorry you
my
had to go through
gosh,
that.
that's amazing. Sometimes I feel like, oh, this is going to sound very sexist, but sometimes I feel like men can be a little bit more nicer than some women. What do you think about that?
I think for
Hard.
me, it's very individual. Like it
Yeah,
really
true.
depends. Because I had another experience where I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome in my late 20s. I'd
Mm.
always had irregular periods, and I also had been on a journey of like hideous types of, birth control, oral contraceptive, and this Depo-Provera, this one that lasted for my, anyway, totally fucked with my hormones and
Mm.
ended up in a right mess.
Mm.
Went to get some testing done, was diagnosed with PCOS, and it was a male doctor. And he said to me, "Oh, yeah, you've got this. You'll probably never be able to have kids. There's a pamphlet in the hallway." And that was it. So, I don't know for me whether it's I've had the experience of just men or just women being a certain
Mm.
way, but what I have experienced is good practitioners and absolutely shocking practitioners with no bedside manner whatsoever and no compassion in
Mm.
delivery and incorrect information anyway. I mean,
Mm.
I went on to have two kids like so easily that it was accidental, like it wasn't a problem for me. And um, there was just handing someone, and I think about all the people who receive prognoses, with
Mm.
conditions, and then especially at the moment, cancer is such a hot topic, but receiving the prognosis of, you've got this amount of time to live, and people hear that and they die on that day, pretty much. It's it's we've got
Mm.
a lot of work to do in the health and healing
Oh, completely.
fields. Yeah, and it's getting better. There are so many amazing, amazing practitioners out there now turning this ship around. But I think you probably agree that the last 4 years has been such a massive eye-opening time with health and with the types of approaches that just clearly don't work and do harm to people.
100%, 100%. And as you were sharing that, I was thinking of, the experiences that I have had with that industry. And yeah, it's been both sides. It's been male and it's been female.
Yeah.
Had some incredible, like, male doctors that I swear would have been like, are you an angel?
Yeah, I've had one here too. There's a guy in New Zealand who, stood up against all the ridiculousness in the last few years, and unfortunately, it's well, it almost cost him his career. He's still hanging in there, but he's probably the best GP I've ever seen in my life. He's like you say, he's an angel. I think he spent 90 minutes with me doing full physical examination, mental health, emotional, environmental. He addressed everything
Wow.
so thoroughly. Yeah. These people are rare and they're gold.
Yes, extremely rare. I mean, isn't it like 15 minutes your time slot generally?
Yeah. 10 minutes over here in New Zealand. Yeah.
Minutes. I haven't been
Yeah.
to a GP in that long, but yeah, wow, 90 minutes. That's incredible.
Mm.
Oh, that's awesome. It helps to give hope, that it's not all bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's proper medical care, but
Yeah.
how we integrate that into the current system, I have no idea because it's so different to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're
I
so
mean,
far away from it.
so far away from it. But at the same time, there is this part of me, and maybe it's a cynic, but it's that like the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do,
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah,
So
you're right.
it's not necessarily um gonna change. They
Mm.
might drip feed us with little changes along the way to keep us thinking, oh, maybe, but I think we
I
just,
think it's up to us, isn't it, to
yeah,
change the system either from within as this one kind of crumbles or create new ones.
a totally new one. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
that's
think it's happening.
happening. Yeah, there's so much evidence of it. I had a moment back in 21. I was visiting Melbourne and I had this crazy health situation happen where I actually went to pay for a coffee in a cafe and I collapsed. Yeah, it was really full on. And it turns out I may have had a mini stroke. So I chose not to get can I say it on your thing? Or
Totally.
the
Go for
experimental medicine that's been offered.
it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I chose not to have that. And however, I'd been around a lot of people who'd recently had it. And the night, a couple of nights before, I'd been training in a gym with lots of hot, sweaty people who'd just taken that and we're sharing
Mm,
weights and whatnot. So I'm not sure, we don't have full evidence to say that this is a thing yet, but it was at a time where there was a lot of fear. It was very stressful. I had some major stressful family situation stuff going down. So there
mm,
were lots and lots of factors. It was a big cocktail of stuff.
yeah.
And I ended up kind of hitting the deck and then had to go to hospital and had, heart monitoring and everything. I sort of lost my ability to speak. Like it had the whole slow, slurred speech thing going on. It was
Wow.
pretty terrifying. Um, it all worked out okay, and it's all been unexplained. I never got, which is what led me to find that New Zealand doctor who I just spoke of, because I thought, okay, I really need someone who's just willing to listen to me, to this crazy story, and try and help me make some sense of it because I wasn't getting anything from the normal mainstream. And I'd seen maybe 15 people by that point.
Mm.
Um, where was I going with this?
That's crazy though. So, oh my goodness.
Oh, I
Yeah.
just remembered. I was just having a little perimenopausal like moment. But I remember this point in time where I was sitting in the hospital waiting room in Victoria, and I was just kind of having this almost surreal experience where I was sitting there just seeing everything really, really clearly and slowly. And so everyone was masked. There was the, you know, sanitizing stuff everywhere. They were all sitting, a meter apart. It felt so surreal. It was just one of those scenes out of a movie or something, out of like Contagion. And at the same time, I'm looking around this hospital waiting room. There's no water. There's vending machines full of Coke and other soft drinks and junk food.
Mm.
And I happened to be in that waiting room for 9 hours. Yeah. and there was no nurturing, nothing healthy to consume, and just this awful scene. And I was thinking, I just kind of went into this little dream moment, and I just closed my eyes and I imagined this waiting room in a completely different way. Like imagine if the windows were open and there was a light breeze blowing through, so everyone had like fresh air and the curtains were flowing and there was natural light and um, people's faces were free to breathe, and there was jugs, like little water stations of jugs with glasses and slices of lemon and mint in them and some soft music playing and but plants, green plants everywhere. And instead of like some absolute crap on the TV that was blaring out, like what if they showed like a nature show on the television? And just these little things, they're small changes, but how much of a difference could that make to
Mm.
other people sitting in a waiting room in a hospital? It would just completely change everything.
Totally, totally. That would be like nurturing that environment,
Yeah.
versus like,
And maybe some people employed, some staff to come over and check on you every hour when you're sitting there for 9 hours, you know?
yes, 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 yes. I laugh because I'm like, that is such a like
It's so not what is happening, but
it's so, and I'm
not
like,
that
I don't know if that
hard.
would ever happen. Would that ever? I don't think that would ever happen, but like this is why we need to create our own system. Like that is because it's so important. I think there are people waiting in those waiting rooms and you're in a hospital, so you're waiting to hear news of some kind. And so the anxiety is like through the roof, and
Yeah.
you're obviously also not feeling well because you're in the hospital. So you're trying to
Yeah.
push through not feeling well and anxiety. And, also like you're also energetically like holding space for the people in the room. As
Well, as an empath, yes, I was
yeah,
totally, I
yeah,
was like sending vibes to the kid crying and the mother struggling and like, yeah, you just
totally.
do.
Yeah. And it's just so like it can be so draining.
Yeah.
So, so, so draining. And yeah, and an environment like you're talking about. It just makes me go, yes, something like that would
I
be.
know. And you just think how easy it would be. You could go down to the op shop and gather a few of these items and even just put some cushions on chairs and some throw rugs. When people are cold, they can put them on their knees. Like there's so many little things that are not that hard, and yet they won't do it because, protocol and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it would also um, help people respect the environment a lot more because it's like, oh, you feel nicer in the environment. You feel somewhat taken care of and nurtured in that environment. So you're going to, have more respect for it because there's oftentimes like those annoying like plastic chairs that they get, and they're like rows of those plastic chairs that
Oh,
they're
they are
always
not built for comfort.
they're not built for comfort. And you always see like there's graffiti on them and people have scratched graffiti into them. And like,
Hmm.
it just doesn't. Where am I? Am I in a train station or am I in a like place of apparent health? I'm
Mm.
supposed to be getting taken
And
care
even watching the staff in those sorts of environments the way they are, they don't look like they're loving their job. And these are people who probably went into that job because they're deeply nurturing individuals who wanted to help others feel better. And yet, they're marching around having to do all this like protocol shit. And,
Mm.
they're having to cope by rushing outside for a vape or a ciggy every hour. And it's just, it's not conducive to anybody.
It's so funny. Like, even when I was a young kid, you know, like I've always questioned a lot of things and been like, why does that happen? I had nowhere to voice these questions or anything. So I spent a lot of time in my head, just kind of like dreamland, wondering about life.
Mm.
And my mum, unfortunately, spent a lot of time in the hospital. Therefore, we spent a lot of time in a hospital.
Mm.
And they're called health workers.
Yeah.
They're called health workers. And this is, I remember being a little kid walking around outside of the hospital, um, just like stuck on this thing because I'd always see these health workers standing outside the hospital with some kind of coffee or something in their hand and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And as a little kid, I'd be like, but didn't you study how to be healthy? Because you're a health worker. So how come you're smoking?
Yeah.
Because that's not a health. And I would spend like we were at the hospital for hours and hours at a time, and so I would spend like hours contemplating stuff like this. Like I just don't, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm. Yeah, very
No
much.
one's talking about this.
Another turning point for you, hey, with what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you shared about, not funny. 9 hours is a long time to wait in the waiting room during that COVID time with
Oh,
people.
it's hideous.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I had a similar moment. I think it was, no, it was in 2020. And actually, it was, I had a miscarriage. And it was so horrific in the middle of all of the lockdowns. And we were staying with my husband's parents. We were living with them at the time during this
Hmm.
lockdown. Um, and my husband was away for work. And so I was alone and I had this miscarriage. And I just remember the blood, seeing the blood everywhere when I got out of bed that morning. It was just like, oh, what?
Mm.
And I had to go to two different hospitals. The first one I went to was Frankston Hospital. And
Oh, that's where I had my experience.
yeah,
Good
it's
old
funny
Frangers.
when you were talking about it, I was like, for some reason, I was seeing the
You
Frankston
were picturing
Hospital.
it?
I was right
Yeah.
there with you.
And you literally were.
I literally was. And yeah, so I had to go. So first I had to go to Rosebud Hospital because we
Oh, that was where I went the second time. Yep. How
oh my goodness.
funny.
That's why we
Mm.
were probably there together. Who knows? Um, and yeah, so I had to go to the Rosebud Hospital to get a scan done. And of course, you have to drink all the water and do all of this stuff. And I get there, and well, it's so early in the pregnancy that the external scan on your belly isn't enough. So they have to insert the rod. And so the health worker was a man and he was getting ready to insert this thing. And I had, my legs spread. I'm holding it together because I'm bleeding a lot. So obviously it's a
Mm.
miscarriage, but there's still like, oh, but maybe there's something.
Yeah.
And this health worker looks down as right before he's holding this rod and he's putting, the gel on it, whatever. And he looks down at me and he says, "Oh, you're still bleeding."
Gosh, it's just another one of those. Yeah.
Yes, I am. What do you want me to say to that? Like, anyway, so there was that. And then I had to get the results of that scan. And that was a few days later. So that wait, oh, in itself. But then going to the Frankston Hospital, getting these results, waiting in the waiting room, just like you said, it was bleak, it was sterile, it was like the bright white fluorescent lights, everything
Yeah.
was like caution tape everywhere,
Yeah. Everything about it's anti-health.
anti-health,
Yeah.
you just when you're in a kind of high anxiety state and you see just red everywhere and crosses and
Yes.
like you
Yeah.
have to do this and line up and everyone's wearing masks and it's
And
just
with the TV blaring, they had the COVID ads going the whole
COVID
time as
ads and the
well. So
numbers and
anyone who was in a state of deep anxiety in that place would have been just losing it.
losing it. And there I was. So I was sitting in this waiting room waiting to be called in to get the results. And I was actually the only one in the waiting room at this point. And I'm waiting there for like, it wasn't 9 hours, it was like half an hour. But to be waiting half an hour and be the only one, it
Mm.
felt like a long time. And then she eventually came out, looked around and looked at me and said, "Are you Georgina?" And I was like,
Who else would be?
there's no one else here. But the whole time I'm actually shaking. I'd spent the whole drive on the way to the hospital. It was pouring down rain, bawling my eyes out, you know. And
Yeah.
so I'm like shaking, trying to hold it together. And she's like, "Oh, I'm on hold, blah, blah, blah. I've got to wait till they pick up and then I can call you in." And I was like, okay, whatever. So then I'm waiting for another half an hour, 45 minutes. She's like, she comes out again after that amount of time and she says, "Oh, you may as well come in and just, don't so that you're not waiting here for any longer." I'm like, okay. So I get myself up, actually like shivering and shaking. And I go into this room. I got no eye contact from her whatsoever through this entire experience. She
Hmm.
calls me into the room and I sit down. There's hold music on loudspeaker. She sits in her chair and she just looks at her computer screen, type, 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 type. Eventually she says, "Oh, yeah, I can see there was a pregnancy. Uh, yeah, it's now complete. Yes, so you were pregnant, it's now complete. So yeah, just wait another month and then before you start trying and yeah, you're good to go."
Wow.
That was it. No eye contact. I'm sitting in the chair, shivering,
Gosh.
shaking.
Yeah. And this soul has just left, your body where it's made its temporary home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
response.
It was just
Yeah.
it was just horrible. And I sat there like not moving because I was kind of waiting for, I don't know, I was waiting for something else to happen. Like I was like, surely that can't just be it. And she's
A
like,
hug.
just something. She handed me a
Yeah.
pamphlet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what they do.
Yeah. I got a pamphlet and
Um,
just wait a month before you try again.
mm, yeah.
That was it. I was just like, well, no. No,
Yeah.
this is not a system that is set up and designed for health.
No,
For,
Georgina and I are doing a call out to all alternative health practitioners and even mainstream trained health practitioners who want to do things a better way. We need you.
oh my gosh, we so need you.
Yeah.
Please, please, please study something to do with trauma and like how to communicate to people.
Yeah. And anything that people are drawn to or love or they've, experienced the as you have, you've experienced the negatives and the downsides of something and you want to go and do it better now. Like I think this is where we're at now. People are like,
Really.
well, we're tired of this shit. It's not working. It's not healing people. And, you think about the levels now of collective trauma that need attention. It's huge. There's a huge scope now for people to really step into this work.
Absolutely. And there's, yeah, such a huge, huge need for it. Huge need. And that
Yeah.
kind of takes me to what you do for a living,
Hmm.
because you are kind of filling that gap for people as well in a very special way. Your website is so beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm actually in between websites right now, so
I'm in
that one
between
will
websites.
be changing.
It's
Um,
beautiful. I was more referring to the content and how you
uh,
write and what you've put on there, as in like what you've said about your yourself and also, your mission.
yeah, thanks. I mean, well, all this health stuff is very relevant actually because I do have a background in clinical health. I trained as a naturopath, a medical herbalist, and nutritionist, and did a number of other modalities, massage, craniosacral therapy, and things like that. So I worked with people clinically for some time. And then
Mm.
I realized actually the clinical side of it doesn't really hit the mark for me. Like, yeah, it's, and I love watching good clinicians at work. I love their analytical brains going ping, 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 ping. And I have a dear friend who's a nutritionist, and she is brilliant at reading blood work, for example. And it's her thing. She can take what looks like to me a page of numbers and gibberish and just like see what's going on in the body for someone. And she literally pictures all the pathways, the chemical pathways, and what nutrients are needed, and how to come in with supplements to boost this and that. And yeah, and I don't get the same buzz from that, but I love watching people in their zone of genius. So I realized that the people who were coming to me, the underlying stuff was much more emotional. And
Mm.
I could help them on that physical level, and they would love particularly my herbs because I prescribed very intuitively rather than clinically. So I would literally run my hand along the herbal dispensary that I had and let the herbs like come forward and speak to me. And I put those in a bottle and send them away. And people loved them and they got results. But I realized they weren't still addressing underlying causes, which were emotional, psychological, and they weren't like making the changes in their lives that resulted from those. So then I started to get interested more in the mindset coaching side of things, and sort of closed my clinical practice and moved more to the coaching model. Still got a lot of people working with health stuff, but then it broadened out. So suddenly I was working with people with relationship stuff and wanting to change careers and child stuff. Like there was all sorts of things. And that felt really, really juicy to me. So I did the coaching for a number of years, and I still do coaching now. But in the last 5 years, I guess, I've really gone more down the spiritual path, I guess, and dived into human design and astrology as tools, I guess, that I can use to help direct people back into alignment with who they really are and what they're here to sort of who they're here to be, I should say,
Mm.
because what they're here to do is a personal choice. There are so many ways that you can express your kind of soul purpose. And I believe that's your choice, but I can sort of give them the essence of who they are, like the blueprint that human design and astrology can offer, and then sort of bring them closer to an alignment with that.
Mm.
And the human design piece has been particularly helpful in terms of explaining the mechanics of energy of a person. So helping someone come into alignment with how their energy wants to work and flow, how they're designed to make decisions, what their aura type is like, how their centers operate, their open centers versus their defined centers. It's been a journey, a personal journey first before I started sharing this information,
Mm.
because I like to do that. I like to work with something first and see if it works for me rather than just going, oh, this is the latest thing. And,
Totally.
I'm going to incorporate that. So I went on a personal, and I'm still on my human design experiment, as it's called,
Yeah.
journey. But what I noticed after about 6 months of applying it to my own life was like, yeah, it works. It's it's practical. So that I guess that sixth energy in me, that's earthly and practical, really likes that side of it. That it's something that I can give people practical ways to apply this in their life. And it's very self-directed, and that appeals too. I really wasn't about protocols and prescriptions for
Mm.
people. I'm much more interested in people becoming sovereign in their own right and choosing to um, really step up and do the work themselves, but I guess helping guide them with the information and the blueprint.
Mm.
So, yeah, my journey's been a long one. Like, I guess I've been involved with natural health and healing sort of stuff for about 30 years. Even growing up, my mum was a naturopath, and
Wow.
we had, so she was studying it when I was around 15, 16, and she had dyslexia. So I would actually help her with her papers. I would
Mm,
edit them and end up rewriting them because,
wow.
yeah, because I was quite good at English and she wasn't so much. So I almost did a first naturopathic degree when I was in high school, really, just through kind of helping her with her stuff. And then I ended up doing my own 10 years later. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time studying, thrown a lot of money at it. I don't even want to think how much in my training, but
Mm.
it's been worth it. And it's been this really interesting evolution of working first with body, with the physical, and then mind, and now spirit, and sort of incorporating it. Yeah.
It's so amazing. And like being able to look at a human being. Yeah, being able to look at a human being and not just see the physical, you can see them from almost every angle, and that's so, what a gift. What a real, real gift. And not just like, you have a really deep understanding of the physical. You have a really deep understanding of the mental and emotional. And now you have a really deep understanding of the spiritual. And I think, and and also I'm such a fan of people who practice what they preach.
I think it's really important as well to
Yeah,
walk your talk.
totally.
Um,
And I think that's like a really big, like that's what we've been talking about with the healthcare system is that is what they don't do.
yeah.
And so I guess that's why a lot of some of what they preach, it's kind of baseless and it doesn't make sense a
Mm.
lot of the time.
It's so true. And look, you see this on social media all the time because there's so many people now, coaches and healers and
Mm,
human design readers and health, naturopaths, all kinds of people on social media. And it's, yeah, I mean, you put up your highlight reel mostly, but some of these people, when I've met them in person, when I've had sessions with them or just known them socially, from around the place, and you can see that there's a misalignment happening,
mm,
that they're presenting one thing and then they're, off like partying and taking drugs every weekend.
mm,
And you're like, for me, that just doesn't sit right. It's
mm,
not, and it's no, judgment or disrespect on they get to live their lives how they want to. But as a consumer, as a potential client, I wouldn't feel comfortable booking in when I know that's the case.
totally, 100%. And for me, it was a real journey because coaching is, something I do as well, but the journey to actually call myself a coach, because
Oh, I can relate to that. Hey,
yeah,
it's particularly life coach. It's such a interesting term
mm,
because I don't love it.
I
It
don't love it.
makes you feel like, who am I to be a life coach?
Yeah, there's that
It's
as well. And like for me, it was also like that coach industry is so saturated and
yeah,
lots of promises and you can go to a course to become a certified coach.
probably in a weekend. It's very varied. You're right. And you don't even have to do a course to call yourself a coach. That's another thing too.
Mm,
So there's all sorts of training. Like I've done a few qualifications as a coach, but I'm doing further training this year because I think it's really important to upskill all the time.
mm,
And I mean, I'm doing that in everything. I consider, even though, it was very kind of you to say I have a deep knowledge in these different areas. Honestly, I don't feel it. I feel like I'm still at the tip of the iceberg level because there is just so much to learn. And I don't have any sort of false idea that I'm ever going to get there to the bottom and know it all. No way, because life just keeps unfolding. The mystery keeps growing and there's more and more to learn. But I guess I have a love of learning and of wanting to be better, wanting to upskill, wanting to
Constant
understand
growth.
further. Yeah. And so that's something that will always be a part of my work.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
all it's like this is all about, yeah, the three energy, the threes,
Uh-huh.
they're like sponges for learning. If they're not learning, they're not enjoying life. And equally,
Yeah.
if the process of learning is not enjoyful,
Enjoyful. I love that. That's good. Let's roll with that.
enjoyful, then
Yeah.
they're not going to be learning anything. So,
It's interesting because in human design, the three-line profile is very much the same. Yeah, it's very similar. It's about constantly learning by sort of diving in and just experiencing and, diving in and swimming your own way in order to figure it out. Not so
mm,
much, not so much needing to know how it works first. So, yeah, very much about the experience, the exploration.
I love
Mm.
that so much. So, so much. And yes, you're absolutely right with um constantly needing to upskill and to keep your, I so feel it's like, computers, not to compare us to computers, but like you have to keep upgrading your
The
computer to
software,
the
yeah.
software to stay up to date with all the new things that exist in the world. And I think, we're in a time now of such rapid growth. Like, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of people coming to me that are like in their awakening, not only to the realities of the world, but also to their own truth,
Their own internal.
their
Yeah,
own internal
100%.
truth. And
Yeah.
it's like a lot of people, and it's such a rapid process now for people.
Hmm.
And I think as that happens, I feel like I've got to, keep kind of ahead of it to be able to guide people through, and there's so many different intricacies with each experience.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, and just touching again on that word coach and what we were talking about with that, because it is,
yes, thank
yeah, I know
you.
what you mean. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
funny with that term. I sort of came to a little bit of peace with it when I thought about what a coach really is in terms of like a sports coach. So what most people would know as a coach is like a rugby coach or a football coach or something like that. And the point of that person, their whole job description is to know the athlete almost better than the athlete, to know their psyche, to know their mindset, and to know physically what they're capable of and energetically what's going on for them, and read their emotions, etc. To understand their goals, where they want to head, and to be able to guide them on that path successfully. So everyone understands that a sports coach is not doing the work. They're not running the race. They're not playing the game of footy.
Mm.
They are there to help the athlete be the best version of themselves in order to, compete successfully. So pretty much that's what we do as coaches.
Mm-hmm.
There can be some confusion when people project this idea that a coach is there to kind of save you and solve your life problems, because that's not what they're there to do. And that projection can sometimes come from the coach themselves in their sort of um, egoic vision of themselves and their PR and marketing,
Yeah.
because they are often in the coaching field. We're taught to, think about our customers' pain points and then preach about how we can solve them. So for me, the way that coaches are taught to market is really icky and it hasn't sat well with me. And I think that's why
Really.
I've battled over the years with this label of calling myself a coach, and I've worked with several business coaches to help me market, and usually it doesn't work because it comes back to this thing where they're telling me to hone in on pain points and then tell everyone how I'm going to save this person or solve their life. And I'm like, deep down, that doesn't resonate with me because I'm here to guide and to show and to be a shining example for this person by knowing them deeply. I'm not here to do the work for
Mm-mm.
them.
No, not at all. Or promise, or promise these crazy results,
No,
and
I can't promise that because it's up to the person.
up to the person. Like you
Yeah.
can, there's a saying like you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink, and it's
Yeah.
really up to the person to drink that water if they see that that's what's good for them to do. Um,
That's right. Yeah.
mm,
And sometimes even I learned this when I was studying craniosacral therapy that healing sometimes can mean death.
yeah.
Sometimes it can, and that's, actual literal death or metaphorical death of something. So healing can involve going into the darkness, doing the dark inner soul work, the shadow work. It can involve leaving a situation, a marriage, a relationship, a place, a job, letting go of some sort of, toxic thing from your past. So it's not always bright and shining and
Mm-mm.
you know, forward facing. It can be so varied. And I think the beautiful thing about coaching people through a process is that that unfolds as you're going, as you're
Mm.
doing the work together.
Absolutely. And I think it's so, I've, you know, I, you would probably resonate with this is that like we don't do what we do for the money.
No,
I
God, no.
mean,
I would have
we,
chosen a different profession long ago.
right? But like
Yeah.
we do it also for money, right? Like we need money. So,
Yeah, money's
but
nice.
that's
Yeah.
not why we're doing it. And so this is
Hmm.
like yeah, that coaching thing, there's so many things out there that it's like it's about that. It's about, getting clients so that you make money and all of this and how to do it so that you can make more money. And it just doesn't. I'm like, but what about that person? For me,
Mm.
it's such a, oh, I really feel such a profound like privilege that this person has entrusted me and invited me into their safe space because that's really what it is.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
people share with you things that they don't share with anybody else. And they're really inviting you into this very safe, special place, very
Yeah, it
special
is. It's an
place.
absolute privilege and an honor to be in that position. And um, yeah, I guess there is a line with that money aspect that you touched on so beautifully because we do need money to pay our bills and to the society that we're in at the moment, that's the currency that we use to kind of
Mm,
put food on our tables. And we do have to be mindful of that idea of the starving artist or the wounded healer who is afraid to charge for our services and doesn't or sort of has an expectation that the work that we do should be free or should be low cost. And then that can come from others as well. There can be a real societal projection onto people like us doing this work to think that
mm,
it should be available. And we do need to sort of find that balance, find what's right for us. Yes, we need to get paid, and money is nice to have. And when we get paid for our work, we feel better. We can grow our confidence. We can invest that into our businesses. We can invest it into our training, and we can continue the work and just get better at it. So
yeah. It's
it
also
is
like
important.
a form of acknowledgement as well and validation.
Hmm. Yeah.
Money is just energy at the end of the day. And if
Yep.
it wasn't money, it'd be a goat or it'd be, do you know what I mean? It'd be some form.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I've done plenty of barter situations and swaps and trades, and it's
Absolutely.
awesome. But yeah, sometimes there's only so many kind of that you can do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, can I ask a question? Because on your website, you you have like a journey laid out for people, and it starts with, and I absolutely love that it starts with this, but it starts with you do a human design reading for them. And then from there, you enter into the coaching paradigm. And
Mm.
so when you coach with people or guide people, you're guiding them alongside their human design.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one thing that I've been able to bring to my coaching that's really helpful because for two reasons. It helps me know how to coach them for a start. I by knowing their design, I'm more aware of, whether I need to sort of invite them or allow them to sort of initiate how the session runs, or I need to provide something for them to respond to. So, depending on their energy type and the way they're designed to make decisions, of course, is hugely important in a coaching process. So, being aware of that's really helpful for me as the coach, but it's also really helpful for them because we can get to results faster and we're not fighting against or battling against their energetics, the way that they're designed.
Yes. It's
So
so
yeah,
powerful.
it's a really powerful thing. And I guess what I've really honed in on more recently is really helping people with their purpose or I'm calling it soul alignment, or their North Star. Like, there's a number of ways of talking about this, but purpose doesn't just mean a job. It sort of is really speaks to, who you are as a soul in this lifetime
Mm.
and what you want to be focused on. And so these tools are really helpful in that, and it can help explain to people. I mean, from the astrological point of view, I'm looking at the nodal astrology, the North and South nodes, and the Midhaven and the Imam Chali, and then combining that with human design and the incarnation cross, particularly,
Mm.
to just really help fast track that a little bit for people so that they can understand. Um, I get a lot of feedback in the sessions that it's just validating, that it's just like this very kind of comforting, like, oh, okay, I get that. Okay, oh, that's why I did that. Oh, that's why people always say that about me. Um, there's a lot of sort of ahas that drop in that just feel like validation, that people sort of hid
Mm.
away these parts of themselves that they thought were wrong or they weren't doing right. It wasn't lining up with society's expectations. Or they thought that that's how they had to make decisions and then they learn it's a completely different way. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense.
So
Because
good.
I think inside we know this is all about helping people to remember. Like
Absolutely.
deep down we know, yeah. But
And
it's yeah,
mm, sorry, you said the word validating, and it's so powerful. It's so, 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 so powerful to validate a person's experience.
yeah. It's
It's
important to
it's so important because
because
that's
we can't know it. Only they have that experience from their own body, mind, and soul. So,
and it's
yeah,
it's the one thing that most of us go through our lives without,
yeah,
and when you bring your human design, and it's the same for me with the numerology, is that the the charts that you're looking at is a representation of this person's absolute truth.
yeah, yeah,
And
it is.
that's when you're speaking, when you have that as the foundation of how you speak to this person, how you interact with them, how you listen to them, it's all like it's from their absolute truth. And so you're validating their entire experience without needing to say any words yet, because, you know,
That's
I get you. I totally
that's so
get
beautifully put.
you.
I love that. I love that. It's even before you've said anything that you're looking at this chart or this person's numbers and you're like, yeah, you're already seeing them.
You're already seeing them and getting who they are. And yeah, it's just such a gift when when you connect with someone and you don't have to explain everything. You know,
Hmm.
the other person, you just feel like they get it already somehow.
Mm.
I get it a lot for people in my readings. They're like, I haven't told you anything about my life or who I am. And yet I've never been seen, I've never been heard, I've never been actually validated
Yeah.
in this way before. And I love so much that you use this as like the base, the foundation for like your whole coaching relationship with people. I think that
Mm.
is so powerful. And I would love a world where this is everywhere, where therapists were using
Mm.
this kind of information and, just
And
everybody.
school teachers, think
School,
about,
school teachers
yeah,
and parents. Can you imagine being
yeah,
raised by this information and everyone just understanding, oh, that's who you are? That's just,
yeah.
ah,
And sometimes, I mean, I must say, it's really interesting now because a lot of people are looking at this stuff to do with conscious parenting now.
yeah.
Um, Sometimes they can get a little too wrapped up in it and forget that kids need to be kids and they need to, that the part of the soul journey sometimes is falling off the path, you know,
Oh,
and we're not like following an absolute map from birth is really not how it's meant to be done. We're not meant to do it perfectly. It's okay. And it's absolutely an essential part to fall off the path and to take a wander and a detour and find something else about ourselves along the way and then be gently guided back. And I think that that's just really important to point out as well, because sometimes people can get caught up in, oh, when I have all this knowledge about myself, when I know my numerology and my astrology and my human design, and I'm never going to make another mistake. I'm never going to pick the wrong guy, or I'm never going to, because that's bullshit. Like,
totally, totally,
yeah,
totally bullshit. No, 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 no whatsoever. No, no. In fact, you could even say that falling off the path is part of the path.
is the path. Exactly.
That's the human experience. We have to physically go through things to have
I'm
awareness.
sure that there's a Rumi quote that's something similar to what you just said. Yeah.
Totally, totally. This world, we perceive it as physical for a reason. And if something doesn't physically happen to you, then you won't have awareness for it. So we have to go through it. It always, those things that we think are like taking us off track or were just the worst years of our life, or, that
Mm.
relationship was just like a waste of time. Those are the things
Mm.
that led us
To where we are now.
to
Yeah.
where we are now, which is our truth, which is, I am so much like I'm the most truth embodied that I've ever been in my entire life. And like, I would need a lot of pages to tell you all about the things that I have
Yeah. And
experienced.
I know a little about your upbringing and it's full on. And look at you. How old are you?
31
I
this year.
I mean, you're so young and to be, because I'm nearly 50. So I'm to see you sitting here going, I'm the most embodied in my truth. I mean, oh my goodness, I'm so inspired by you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I
I wouldn't
have
have
a
said those
long
words
way
at
to
your
go.
age. Yeah.
I have a long, long way to go, and it just, yeah,
We all do, but kudos
yeah.
to you for being here in this space now and being able to actually say that with authenticity. And I know I can see your authenticity shining through. So, I just want to like congratulate you on that because it's a big effort to go through what you've gone through and yeah, be like totally committed to that.
Thank you. And I think if I could share any piece of wisdom about this, it's I didn't I didn't do anything special in terms of, to get to where I'm at such a young age, or like I didn't do anything special or, crazy or profound or wild or anything. When I distill down my whole experience and how I gotten here, it's, I just listened, I just listened. Like when something didn't feel right, I listened to that. When something was telling me, no, you're here for something bigger than this, I listened to that. When something was saying there's a reason I have to keep going, I just listened. That is it. And I listened and I chose, you know what? How about I trust that voice? Because that that's a lot nicer than all the other ones going around,
Mm.
So I just listened. And I think if we could just take that on board, well,
Yeah, I agree with you, and I can fully relate to what you've said there through my own experience as well. It's been listening to that inner voice, which was always quieter. That one was the whisper. It was the shouty voices were the one telling you, you're a piece of shit and you shouldn't be doing that and you should be doing this. And they're the loud ones, but it's the quiet little whisper that was like, no, you're here for something bigger. You
mm,
can do this. You can get through this. That's the voice I listen to as well to get me here today. So I 100% know what you're saying. And, to tie it all back in with how we started, go for a walk,
yes.
walk at least for half an hour and then listen. And
Listen,
you can't go wrong.
you can't go wrong. And then once you're back home, you can sit down, pick up your phone and look up Anita Toi.
Yes, or Georgina, and have a reading with either of us and we will validate you. There you go. Um,
So, so, so good. So, on that note, my dear friend, would you like to share with people where they can find you? Because I'm sure by now they're chomping at the bit to find you.
Thank you. Well, as as I mentioned, I'm a little bit in between websites at the moment, but if you might find something up, and if you don't, you'll find a coming soon page, and then you'll find the new website very soon. But that it's the W's, anitatoi.com, ANITATOI.com. But I am on Instagram at Anita underscore toy underscore with the TOI. And I have a Substack, which is dormant, but I'm going to get that up and running this year. But I also have a podcast, and the name of that is Inner Awakening. And you'll find that on Apple and Spotify and all those usual places. And I would love to have you on as a guest soon as well, Georgina. So, yeah, please go and have a listen to the podcast as well. And thank you so much for having me. It's just been such a joy. It's enjoyful. It's been really
Joyful.
enjoyable to be here today with you.
I am so, so glad. Thank you so much for joining me, for joining us on this amazing journey. It's so freaking amazing being able to do this, isn't it? Like we
Yeah.
would never connect if it wasn't for the fact that we have a podcast and we get to do this and talk about some really amazing things that you wouldn't talk about it pe with people at the cafe and stuff like that. So just so amazing. You are such a bright, shining light. And honestly, like I think everybody should look you up and get a reading with you and work with you because I can feel the love and the nurture and the guidance and the care that you would put into every single person that you work with. Like they are your own child.
It's funny you say that because I do sort of fall in love with every person I read for because what I'm seeing is their highest truth and their brightest self, with the charts. And so I've even had in the past people who I'm kind of how do I say this, not so good of friends with, or I've seen their profiles and things, and I think, oh, am I going to get along with this person? And what ends up happening is I'm like, I love them because
I love them so much. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I had to read for Bill Gates, then I might struggle. But in general,
Mm, mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so, so good. Well, thank you so much, Anita, for being here, for sharing your wisdom, your truth, and your heart with us. It's been such a pleasure. And yes, so please find Anita. Her podcast is Inner Awakening, and She's in between websites, but you can still contact her and find her everywhere that she is. You will get value.
Thank you.
I'll share
Thank you.
I'll
I
share all of your
appreciate it.
information in the show notes. You can also find my information in the show notes. And those interested, I do have a course coming up starting the 28th of May. So check that out. And that's it. We did
Great. Awesome.
it.